shaved heads, tracksuits, a dance that looks more like a seizure than choreography. Meet the Gabbers, the loudest, wildest subculture the 90s had to offer. For the mainstream, they were a threat. For the underground, they were a revolution. But who were they really? Just drugged up weirdos or misunderstood kids screaming through music? This is the story of rebellion, of bass instead of words, of a subculture born in post-industrial decay and twisted by public fear. Who were the Gabbers? And why did everyone think they were maniacs? Strap in. It's loud, it's fast, it's Gabber. Late 1980s. Rotterdam, Netherlands. The economy is tanking. Factories are closing. Concrete neighborhoods stretch endlessly. For many working-class kids, the future looks like a dead end. So they turn to something loud, something brutal, something that screams with them. Where did Gabber come from? Gabber, from Amsterdam slang for buddy or mate, wasn't born in clubs. It was forged in warehouses, abandoned buildings, and broken cities. It fused acid house, Belgian new beat, industrial and hardcore techno into something completely unhinged. Faster, louder, rawer. In 1992, Rotterdam Records dropped tracks that felt like musical riots. DJs like Paul Elstak, Neophyte, and DJ Rob didn't want smooth vibes. They wanted a war on the dance floor. While Amsterdam was embracing stylish house parties, Rotterdam said, "No more posh dance floors. Let's break things." Why did it hit so hard? Gabber wasn't about fashion. It was about rage, alienation, and pushing back against a world that felt fake. The look? Shaved heads. Not skinhead politics, just no nonsense. Tracksuits, working-class armor. The hockey dance. Part stomp, part catharsis. Gabber was the sound of a lost generation reclaiming identity. Through bass lines and chaos. Gabber wasn't designed to go mainstream, but it exploded. And soon the media found a new target. The headlines came, the rumors spread. Gabbers weren't just loud anymore. They were dangerous. Picture this. Early 1990s, the industrial outskirts of Rotterdam, abandoned warehouses turned into nightclubs, and the relentless pounding of hardcore techno. On the dance floor, a crowd of youths, all dressed in matching tracksuits, shaved heads, and bulky Nike Air Max sneakers, moving like there's no tomorrow. These were the Gabbers. Their clothing was a statement, not about fashion, but about identity and rebellion. Tracksuits, bomber jackets, hoodies, practical, unpretentious, and ready for battle on the dance floor. The Nike Air Max wasn't just a sneaker, it was a symbol, comfortable enough for intense dancing and instantly recognizable. If you wore them, you were one of the tribe. Shaved heads weren't just a style, they were a message, a rejection of glossy pop culture, an embrace of rawness, toughness, and pure expression. Why this look? It was a form of anti-fashion, a protest against the mainstream, against polished aesthetics, and even against the peace and love image of earlier rave scenes. Gabber style was aggressive, exaggerated, and proudly unrefined. And that was the point. It was freedom through ugliness. They didn't want to look nice. They wanted to look intimidating, because that reflected the anger and restlessness boiling inside. And the dance? Gabber dancing, known as Haken, looked like a fight with an invisible enemy. Rapid foot stomping, sharp mechanical movements, all in sync with a pounding 190 beats per minute beat. It wasn't just dancing. It was emotional release through aggression. They weren't just having fun, they were getting something out of their system. Why were Gabbers seen as dangerous? For many outsiders, the word Gabber became synonymous with drugs, violence, and chaos. But why did this underground rave culture, born from music and rebellion, end up with such a dark reputation? To the public, Gabbers weren't just party kids. They were uncontrollable maniacs. The pounding hardcore beats, the aggressive dance moves, the shaved heads. It all looked intimidating. Add rumors of drug use, and the image turned toxic. For many parents and officials, Gabber culture seemed like a gateway to self-destruction. Raves weren't just parties. They were often illegal gatherings in warehouses or forests. Police raids were common, and clashes between gabbers and law enforcement became front-page material. Their loud music, defiant attitude, and refusal to conform turned them into an easy target for authorities looking to crack down on youth unrest. The media loved a moral panic. Headlines screamed about drugged-up hooligans and violent techno mobs. News reports zoomed in on the most extreme moments: overdoses, fights, arrests, while ignoring the creativity and freedom at the core of the scene. The image of gabbers as a criminal subculture became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the drugs? Yes, drugs were part of the scene, as with most rave cultures of the time. Ecstasy, speed, and LSD were common, not just for fun, but to keep up with the relentless pace of the music. But not every gabber was an addict or a criminal. For many, the scene was about belonging, expression, and emotional release, not destruction. Gabber wasn't dangerous because it was evil. It was dangerous because it gave a voice to youth rage. And that's what scared society the most. What did gabbers listen to? To understand the gabber scene, you have to feel it. And that means turning the volume all the way up. Gabber wasn't just music. It was a sonic assault, a heartbeat of rebellion pounding at 200 beats per minute. Gabbers worshipped hardcore techno, a genre born in the early 90s in the Netherlands, especially in Rotterdam. This music was brutal: distorted bass drums, shrieking synths, aggressive tempo, often reaching 160 to 220 beats per minute or more. Forget melody. Gabber was about energy, aggression, and escape. Some names became legends in the Gabber underground: Rotterdam Terrorcore, the godfathers of Terrorcore, blending hardcore beats with dark, militaristic imagery and live performances featuring gas masks and pyrotechnics. Angerfist, one of the most recognizable figures in modern hardcore, with his trademark hockey mask and pounding, relentless sound. Neophyte, known for anthems like Brain Cracking, Neophyte pushed the boundaries of how chaotic and aggressive music could be, and gabbers loved it. Hardcore, the main sound: heavy, fast, and uncompromising. Gabber, a more specific Dutch variant, often blending industrial and rave elements. Terrorcore, even harder, faster, and darker. Pure audio violence for the most hardcore of fans. Gabber laid the foundation for modern hard electronic genres like hardstyle, Frenchcore, speedcore, and even trap metal. Its energy can be heard in today's EDM drops, industrial techno, and even video game soundtracks. Though once underground, Gabber's aggressive aesthetic has inspired fashion, visual arts, and even high-fashion runways. For Gabbers, music wasn't entertainment. It was a way to fight the world, one bass kick at a time. Gabbers today, dead or underground? To many people, Gabber seems like a relic of the 90s rave scene, a wild subculture that burned out fast. But in truth, Gabber never really died. It just went underground. After reaching its peak in the 90s, Gabber disappeared from mainstream media. Hardcore techno was pushed aside by softer, more accessible electronic genres. Still, the scene stayed alive through underground raves, secret parties, and niche festivals. In recent years, nostalgia has brought Gabber back into the spotlight. Major events like Thunderdome, DEF CON .1, and Dominator feature classic Gabber and hardcore sets. Fans are reviving the full look: shaved heads, tracksuits, and vintage Nike Air Max sneakers, just like the 90s. On TikTok, a new generation is discovering Gabber through viral dance videos and throwback aesthetics. Even high-fashion brands are embracing the look, incorporating Gabber-inspired streetwear into runway shows. It's no longer just aggressive and raw. Gabber today is self-aware, stylish, and evolving. Gabber didn't die, it just changed its face, from Rotterdam basements to viral trends and fashion runways. Stereotypes versus reality. Gabbers were one of the most misunderstood and stereotyped subcultures of the 90s, branded as drug addicts, violent thugs, or even criminals. But how much of that was true? Why are fringe subcultures seen as threatening? Any group that steps outside the norm tends to trigger fear and moral panic. Aggressive music, shaved heads, intense dancing. It all looked like a threat to traditional values. The media loved to sensationalize. painting Gabbers as dangerous even when most were just young people looking for an escape. Were Gabbers really that scary? Sure, there were extreme cases, fights, drugs, clashes with police, but the vast majority weren't criminals. They were teenagers with energy, anger, and the need to belong. Raves gave them a space to be loud, free, and part of something bigger. The aggressive look, bomber jackets, tracksuits, bald heads, was a deliberate act of rebellion. It was about rejecting norms and saying, "This is who I am, take it or leave it." Behind the tough image was a community built on freedom, unity, and raw emotion. Gabbers weren't scary. They were just loud, intense, and unapologetically themselves. And for many, that was exactly the point. Gabbers weren't just about shaved heads and loud music. They were a raw voice of rebellion, a way for an entire generation to scream, "We exist. We matter." Don't judge a subculture by its appearance. What may look aggressive or chaotic on the outside is often just a search for identity, connection, or a way to cope with a world that feels out of control. Gabber proved that music can be a weapon and style can be a statement.